AITA for leaving my fiancée after she claimed a Snapchat of her with another guy was a prank? I've been putting off writing this for a while because, honestly, it still messes with my head to think about it. But I need to get this off my chest, and maybe my relationship disaster can help someone else avoid the same mistakes I made. Jessica, obviously not her real name, and I were together for 4 years. We met at my friend Mike's housewarming party. I'm not the type to approach random girls, but Jessica was different. She was loud, fun, the center of attention. Basically, my complete opposite. I'm more of a stay-at-home, watch a movie, or have a few friends over kind of guy. But, for some reason, we clicked that night. From the start, I knew she loved to party. Her whole personality revolved around going out, getting drunk, and acting foolish with her friends. Her crew, especially Megan, Tiffany, and some guy named Derek, were the same way, always talking about which club had the best DJ that weekend, or posting those ridiculous group photos where everyone's holding drinks and making stupid faces. I tolerated her friends because I loved her, but they were exhausting. Always drama, always gossip, always trying to one-up each other with who had the craziest weekend. And they never grew up. All pushing 30 and still acting like they were 21. It was embarrassing sometimes. When things got serious between Jessica and me, I made some big sacrifices. I started going out more, even though clubs are my worst nightmare, standing around with overpriced drinks, making awkward small talk with her friends, who clearly thought I was a total snooze. I rearranged my work schedule so I could stay up late on weekends with her. I even moved to a more expensive apartment, closer to downtown, because she said my old place was too far from everything. Meanwhile, I was paying 70% of the rent because she kept bouncing between jobs. A year and a half into the relationship, I told her point-blank that, while I respected her being social, the never-ending party lifestyle was something I couldn't keep up with for the rest of my life. I wanted more. I wanted a home, a family, something real. She swore she was already growing out of that phase, that she wanted the same things. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. When I proposed 2 years ago, we had a serious conversation about our future. I made it clear I wanted us to be a team, committed to each other and our goals. Jessica promised, with tears in her eyes, that she was ready to leave that lifestyle behind. She said her partying days had been fun, but she was done with it and ready for the next chapter. For a while, everything was great. She went out less, started talking about wedding plans, house hunting, even mentioned baby names once or twice. Her friends teased her about becoming boring, but she brushed it off. I really thought we were on the same page. We set a date, put down deposits. Yeah, I paid most of them, because her savings were practically non-existent, sent out invitations, the whole 9 yards. My parents even chipped in a significant amount because they were so happy I had found the one. My mom spent hours helping Jessica pick out centerpieces and bridesmaid dresses. My dad offered to help us with the honeymoon as a wedding gift. My whole family was invested in this wedding. I wasn't invested, I was all in this relationship. Time, money, my heart, my future plans, all built around Jessica. Then, about 6 months ago, I started noticing changes. Jessica started texting more and being vague about who she was with. Her friends started showing up more often. She'd tell me she was just grabbing lunch with Megan, but she'd come back 6 hours later. When I asked, she'd get defensive and say I was controlling her. At first, I told myself I was overreacting. She had promised me she was done with all that, right? She had told me herself. She was maturing, moving away from the party scene. We had a wedding coming up, we were building a future together. Why would she throw all that away suddenly? So I ignored the fact that her phone started living face down on the table. I ignored that she stopped tagging locations in her Instagram posts, when she used to post absolutely everything. But then she started dressing up way too much to be going to the mall with Tiffany. Her phone, which used to be face up, was now always face down. She stopped sharing her location on her social media. Classic signs she was hiding something, and I was too stupid to notice. I ignored it all because we had a wedding coming up, because I didn't want to be that guy, the insecure one, because I was already in too deep, because I loved her and I wanted to believe she loved me too. I worked my butt off at a job I hated just so I could pay for the wedding she wanted. I stopped seeing my own friends to spend more time with her. I even sold my project car, the one I'd been working on for years, to help pay for the honeymoon she'd been dreaming about. After all that, all I wanted was a quiet night in with her. It had been a brutal 60-hour work week and I was exhausted, but I felt like we needed that time together. Lately, we'd been disconnected, me buried in work, her always on a girls' night, or whatever. I figured a night at home would be good for us. I had no clue what was actually going on. I got home around 7 and Jessica was in the kitchen, acting all dramatic, doing these exaggerated yawns and talking about how tired she was from work, even though she'd only worked like 4 hours that day. I remember exactly what she said. "Babe, I'm so beat. I think I'm just going to take a shower and go to bed early tonight." I was a little disappointed because I'd been looking forward to spending time with her, but I also thought, well, at least she's home with me. Which, looking back, is pathetic. I even offered to make her some tea or something, but she said no, she'd probably be asleep in 10 minutes. So she went to our bedroom. I heard the shower running, and then everything went quiet. I settled on the couch to watch something on Netflix. I don't even remember what. An hour went by, and I was completely zoned out until my phone buzzed. It was a Snapchat message from Megan. This struck me as super weird because Megan almost never acknowledged my existence. She was one of Jessica's main party friends and definitely thought I was a bore. I didn't even know we were Snapchat friends. But whatever, I opened it. It was a video from inside Club Venom downtown. Flashing lights, music so loud the audio was distorted, and right in the center of it all was Jessica. My Jessica. I stared at my phone, my brain refusing to process what I was seeing. Jessica, in that dress I'd never seen before, pressed up against that guy, Derek, at Club Venom, whispering in his ear and laughing like they had some inside joke. My Jessica, the one who was supposedly asleep in our bed. There had to be an explanation. Maybe it was an old recording. Maybe someone else just looked like her. I replayed the video over and over. Nope, it was her. The same bracelet, the same nails she got done last week, the same way she tilted her head when she laughed. My stomach dropped, but I had to be sure. I got up and walked to our bedroom, my mind racing. Maybe she'd just gone to the bathroom. Maybe she was asleep, and this was some absurd misunderstanding. I pushed the door open carefully. The bed was barely rumpled. My eyes adjusted to the darkness. She wasn't in bed. My chest tightened. This wasn't just a lie, this was planned. I turned to the bathroom. The door was slightly ajar. I stepped inside, my heart pounding. The shower was dry. No steam, no wet towel. The bathroom window was also slightly open. It faced the back of our building, where the fire escape was. She must have climbed out of there after showering. Probably had club clothes stashed somewhere, like a 16-year-old sneaking out past curfew. I stood there, gripping the windowsill, trying to process the sheer stupidity of it all. This wasn't just sneaking out. This was a premeditated operation. How many times had I kissed her goodnight, thinking she was safe at home, when she was actually out doing this? I needed confirmation. I needed to hear her lie to me. I grabbed my phone and texted her. "You still awake?" Not 10 seconds later, the screen lit up with her reply. "No. Babe, almost asleep." "What?" I let out a hollow laugh. "Almost asleep?" She was out there, grinding on Derek like she didn't have a fiancé, like she wasn't sneaking out of our home to cheat on me. The same woman who promised me, with tears in her eyes, that she had left that party life behind. The same woman who told me she was ready to grow up, to build something real, to commit to a life together. I stood there, clutching the phone, staring at that text. She was so sure I wouldn't find out, so confident in her performance, that she didn't even hesitate before blatantly lying to my face. That's when something inside me snapped. I grabbed my keys and drove straight to Club Venom. Didn't even change out of my work clothes. The whole drive, my head was spinning. How many times had she done this before? How many times had I fallen asleep thinking she was in our bed, when she was actually out with other guys? There was a line outside the club, but I ignored it, paid the cover, and walked right in. The place was packed, music thumping, lights flashing everywhere. It took me about 10 minutes of searching through the crowd before I spotted them at the bar. Jessica was wearing a dress I'd never seen her in. Derek had his arm around her waist. They were chatting with Megan, Tiffany, and a few other people I recognized from her Instagram. All so comfortable together, like this was a normal thing, like this was their regular hangout. I stood there watching them for a minute. Jessica was laughing, touching Derek's chest, completely in her element. Meanwhile, I'd been tiptoeing around our apartment, thinking she was asleep. I felt like a complete idiot. And then, something in me snapped. I stormed over, grabbed Jessica's arm, and said, "We need to talk." Now, the look on her face I'll never forget. First total shock, then a flash of panic, and then she tried to play it cool. "Oh hey babe, what are you doing here?" Derek stepped between us, puffing out his chest. "Who the heck are you?" I said as calmly as I could. "I'm her fiancé. You know, the guy who's been paying most of our bills while she's out here acting single." Derek had the audacity to laugh. "Chill out, man. We're just having fun." I almost lost it right there. Like, I've never been in a fight in my adult life, but I was ready to swing on this guy. Jessica was trying to pull me away. Her friends were suddenly recording everything with their phones, and Derek was still standing there with this smug look on his face. I told Jessica we were leaving. Derek grabbed my shoulder, and I shoved him off. A security guard started walking over, so I just pulled Jessica toward the exit. Her friends were yelling all sorts of things as we left, calling me controlling, a psycho, saying I was ruining the vibe, or whatever. I got her in the car, and that's when the excuses started. She wasn't even sorry I'd caught her. She was just desperate for any explanation I might believe. She made up this story about it being a dare from her friends, that they bet she couldn't go back to her wild days for one night without me finding out. Can you believe that? Like I was supposed to believe that climbing out a window and grinding on Derek in a club was just some innocent game. The whole way home, she talked, and all I could think about was how many nights I stayed late at work to pay for our wedding, while she was probably doing exactly this. 4 years together, a $330,000 wedding planned. And this is the respect I get. The craziest thing is, she seemed more angry at me for embarrassing her in front of her friends than she was about being caught cheating. Like she was upset that I made a scene by going there. Like I was supposed to have texted her instead of showing up. Yeah, right. Because she definitely would have told me the truth after lying to my face all night. I asked her about the open window. You want to know what she said? "I didn't think you'd check." Not, "I'm sorry," or "I messed up." Just, basically, admitting she thought I was too stupid to notice. That's when it really hit me. This wasn't just the first time I'd caught her. I started thinking about all the other girls' nights and work events over the past few months. All the time she was too tired to go out with me, but mysteriously had energy for her friends. All the unexplained charges on our shared card for Ubers at 3 a.m. It was all starting to make sense. We were about halfway home, driving through a pretty empty stretch of highway, when she said something that just broke me. I asked her, "Did you ever plan on keeping your promise about leaving the party life behind? Or was it all just so I would propose?" She sighed, like I was bothering her, and said, "People change, Rob. I'm still young. I can't become some boring housewife overnight just because you put a ring on my finger." That was it. 4 years together, all those conversations about our future, all those promises about wanting the same things, and she just admitted, completely calmly, that it had all been a lie to trap me. I couldn't even look at her. I pulled over right there, on the side of the highway. Not at a gas station or a restaurant, or anything, just the shoulder of a two-lane highway. I told her to get out. At first, she thought I was joking. She fake laughed, like, "Ha, very funny." But I just sat there, car in park, engine running, waiting. When she realized I was serious, she went crazy. Started yelling about how I couldn't just leave her there, that it was dangerous and I was being abusive. Whatever. I told her to call one of her party friends to pick her up. She still refused to get out. So I took out my phone and ordered her an Uber. It cost like $40 because we were in the middle of nowhere, but I didn't care. I just needed her out of my car before I said something I'd regret. I waited until I saw the Uber's lights appear down the road. Now she was actually crying, saying she was sorry, begging me not to throw our relationship away over one mistake. But all I could think about was the premeditation, the pillows propped up in our bed, the planning, the deliberate deception. This hadn't been a mistake. This was who she was. When the Uber arrived, she finally got out, slamming my car door so hard I thought the window would shatter. I didn't even watch her get into the other car. I just drove off. I checked into a hotel and turned off my phone. Spent the entire night replaying every moment of our relationship in my head. All the red flags I'd ignored. All the times I'd compromised on what I wanted because she convinced me I was being too traditional or not spontaneous enough. I realized I'd been trying to fit into her life instead of building one together. The next morning, I called the wedding venue and canceled our reservation. Then the caterer, the DJ, the photographer. Most of them had non-refundable deposits, so I lost thousands of dollars, but I didn't care. I just wanted it all to be over. I didn't say anything to my family or hers. I didn't post anything on social media. I just systematically started erasing every trace of our future together. Jessica kept calling and texting. First, tearful voicemails telling me how sorry she was. Then, furious texts accusing me of punishing her and being cruel. Then, back to begging. I ignored it all. When I finally went back to our apartment the following afternoon, she was there waiting for me. She'd obviously been crying all night, but she'd also put herself together. Hair done, perfect makeup, wearing the sweater she knew I liked. Classic manipulation. She acted like we were just going to talk and move on. Started saying things about healing our relationship and rebuilding trust. I just stood there, letting her talk, until I finally said, "The wedding is off." You should have seen her face. Pure shock, like it had never occurred to her that I would actually follow through with a consequence. "What do you mean off? Did you already tell our parents? What about the deposits? We can reschedule," she asked. I showed her the cancellation emails on my phone. That's when she really lost it. Screaming, crying, calling me every name in the book, saying I was overreacting over one mistake, that I was throwing away 4 years for nothing. That's when I told her she needed to move out by the end of the month. I reminded her that the lease was in my name, not hers. She'd always been too independent to sign official documents, which, in this case, worked out pretty well for me. More screaming, more tears. Then, she switched tactics and tried to seduce me. Started kissing my neck, telling me we could get through this and come out stronger than ever. When that didn't work, she went back to rage. The whole time, all I could think was, who is this person? The woman I thought I was going to marry, the one I'd built my future around, was actually a complete stranger to me. She finally left, slamming the door so hard a framed photo of us fell off the wall and shattered. It seemed fitting somehow. I changed the locks that same day. I know it's probably not legal to do that without giving proper notice, but I didn't trust her not to trash the place while I was at work. I left her key and a note about picking up her things with the building manager. I thought that would be the end of it, but less than 24 hours later, the real social media meltdown began. The next morning, I woke up to my phone blowing up with texts and calls from friends, family, even coworkers. At first, I was confused. I hadn't told anyone about the breakup except my best friend Mike. Then, I opened Instagram and saw what was happening. Jessica's friend, Megan, had posted a video from the club, but it wasn't the Snapchat of Jessica all over Derek. No, it was a video they'd recorded after I arrived, carefully edited to show only the moment where I grabbed Jessica's arm and pulled her out of the club, with absolutely no context of what happened before. The caption said something like, "Look at this controlling psycho dragging his fiancée out of the club for dancing with friends. This is abuse. Share so everyone knows what kind of man it Rob is." The comments were a dumpster fire. People I didn't even know calling me abusive, possessive, toxic. Jessica's friends were fanning the flames. "He's always been like this, so jealous and controlling. Won't even let her go out without making a scene. That's why she's been distancing herself lately. She's scared of him." Lie after lie, but people were eating it up. The post already had hundreds of comments. And then I saw that Jessica had made her own post. A sad selfie, eyes puffy, no makeup, which, if you knew Jessica, you'd know was practically impossible. She wouldn't even go to the mailbox without mascara. The caption was some dramatic paragraph about how she was going through a hard time, finding out who her real friends were, and dropping some vagueness about toxic relationships and finding her voice. She didn't accuse me directly, which was smart, just hinted at it and let everyone else fill in the blanks for themselves. And boy, did they. The comments were filled with, "We're here for you, girl. You're so brave. You deserve better." I was seeing red. These people were rewriting reality. The girl who cheated on me, who lied to my face, was now the victim, and I was the villain. But the worst part was that some of our mutual friends, people who were at our engagement party, people who were supposed to be at our wedding, were liking these posts. Some even commented, "I always noticed the red flags with him. I knew something wasn't right in their relationship." I wanted to defend myself, to tell my side. I started writing a long explanation on my own page, but halfway through, I stopped. What was I doing? Was I really going to get into some social media drama like a teenager? That's exactly what Jessica and her friends wanted, to provoke me into reacting and make me look like the crazy one. So I did something that probably annoyed them even more. I logged out of all my social media accounts. I disappeared. I figured the truth will come out eventually. Anyone who actually knew me would either reach out directly or, at least, refrain from judging me without proof. Some did. My closest friends called or texted, asking what was really going on. My brother came over that night to check on me. But others just disappeared, choosing sides based on who was telling the most convincing story online. To the ones who asked, I told the truth, the whole story, just like I'm telling it to you. Some believed me immediately. Others were skeptical until I showed them the original Snapchat video. Whether they believed it or not wasn't my problem anymore. I ignored it all and focused on the practical stuff. Changed my passwords on all our shared accounts. Called my bank to remove Jessica from my credit card. Contacted my insurance company to take her off my policy. Adult things that needed sorting out. 3 days after the club incident, I came home from work to find my car completely trashed. Windows smashed, tires slashed, control freak keyed into the hood. My neighbor had a security camera that caught the whole thing. There they were, Jessica, Megan, Tiffany, and Derek, taking turns vandalizing my car at 2 a.m. I called the police and filed a report. Showed them the security footage. The officer who took my statement was pretty understanding and said they'd dealt with Jessica and her friends before for public intoxication and disorderly conduct at local bars. He took it seriously and said they'd be in touch with Jessica the next day. I filed for a restraining order. I included the evidence of the car vandalism, screenshots of the social media posts inciting harassment, the threatening messages Jessica had been sending me. Things like, "You're going to regret this," and "You have no idea what's coming." That's when things got really interesting. Jessica's parents called me. I'd always gotten along with them. They were normal, successful people who seemed bewildered by their daughter's lifestyle. Her dad was an accountant, a serious, straight-laced guy. Her mom taught elementary school. They were thrilled about our engagement and had even already contributed money towards the wedding. Turns out, Jessica had told them I canceled the wedding because I met someone else. They thought it was odd because it didn't sound like me, so they wanted to hear my side. I told them everything. Jessica's dad just sighed and looked tired, like this wasn't the first time his daughter had pulled something like this. "We'll take care of the car repair costs immediately," he said, "and we'll talk to Jessica about the rest of this." I felt bad for them. They were genuinely shocked by their daughter's behavior. They apologized at least 10 times before hanging up, which made me feel worse, because none of this was their fault. The next day, all the social media posts attacking me mysteriously disappeared. Jessica's friends stopped talking about it. Derek blocked me on everything. I'm pretty sure her parents laid down the law and threatened to cut her off financially if she didn't stop harassing me. But the damage to my reputation had already been done. People had seen those posts, formed opinions, and some of our wedding guests were already taking sides in a breakup they didn't even know the truth about. I ended up having to send a mass email to all the guests, informing them the event was canceled and apologizing for any inconvenience. I kept it vague. No accusations, no drama, just a simple, "Jessica and I have decided to go our separate ways and appreciate your understanding during this difficult time." Of course, Jessica couldn't leave it at that. She started contacting guests directly, telling them her version of events. Some bought it. Others saw the dramatic performance for what it was. All of this turned our breakup into a public spectacle, exhausting to deal with while I was trying to process the end of a relationship I thought would last forever. But, eventually, things quieted down. 2 weeks went by with no more incidents. I focused on my routine, work, gym, hanging out with the friends who hadn't abandoned me. Mentally, I'd already checked out of the relationship, which surprised some people who expected me to be devastated. But the truth is, when I saw who Jessica really was, it was like a switch flipped. I suddenly felt nothing for her. I couldn't even remember what had attracted me to her in the first place. My friends kept asking if I was okay, if I was processing everything, but honestly, I felt amazing, like I'd dodged a bullet. And then the wedding vendors started calling. Turns out, Jessica was contacting them, trying to get back the deposits I had paid. She was telling them I forced her to cancel and that she wanted to uncancel everything. The venue manager called me, confused, asking if the wedding was still on or not. I couldn't help but laugh and told him, "Definitely not. Sorry for the confusion." I had to call every single vendor again to make sure the cancellation stood, and that they didn't accept any instructions from Jessica. And then she changed tactics again. I started getting texts from unknown numbers that were obviously from her. Things like, "I miss you. Can we talk?" I'd block one number, and she'd text from another. Classic Jessica. When one tactic didn't work, she'd try another. About 3 weeks after all the drama, I ran into her mom at the grocery store. Talk about awkward. But, to my surprise, she came over to talk to me. She told me they'd finally heard the whole story, thanks to some of Jessica's friends who'd come clean. Apparently, Jessica and Derek had been hooking up on and off for over a year, even before we got engaged. The whole dare thing had been a complete lie. Her mom looked exhausted. She told me they'd cut her off financially until she got her life together. They'd been paying her car insurance, cell phone bill, and helping with rent for years, despite her always telling me she was completely independent. They'd also made it clear she couldn't move back home unless she agreed to go to therapy. She said, "We didn't raise her to be like this." I just replied, "She made her own choices." She seemed to appreciate that. The next day, guess who showed up at my door? Jessica. And she looked rough. Not the calculated sadness of her Instagram posts, but genuinely disheveled. "Can I come in?" I didn't answer, didn't even move from the doorway. She started crying immediately. Told me her parents had cut her off, that Megan was charging her rent she couldn't afford, and that Derek turned out to be a jerk who was just using her for his own gain. No surprise there. Then came the usual spiel. She'd hit rock bottom. She'd realized what was truly important. She'd made the biggest mistake of her life and wanted a second chance. She'd go to couples therapy. She'd delete her social media. She'd cut off her toxic friendships. Whatever you want. Just give me another chance. I stood there, waiting for her to finish. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel sadness. I felt nothing. When she finally ran out of words, I just said, "It's over." She looked stunned. It was like she expected me to yell or instantly forgive her, but instead, I was just there, completely indifferent to her performance. I said, "I don't hate you, Jessica. I don't love you either. I just don't care about you anymore." That hit her harder than yelling ever could have. She told me she knew I still loved her, that we could get through this, that everyone makes mistakes. I cut her off. "The only mistake I made was believing you were the person you pretended to be. It's over. For good. Don't come back here." And I closed the door in her face while she was still talking. I heard her yelling and crying outside for a while before she finally left. Honestly, the neighbors probably enjoyed the show. After that, she switched tactics again. Started emailing me memories from our relationship. Old photos, inside jokes, messages about how happy we were. When that didn't work, she had mutual friends reach out to me, supposedly to see how I was doing, but really just to try and intercede on her behalf. Then she sent a handwritten letter, apologizing for everything in detail. I skimmed it and threw it away. A month after the breakup, I was out with some friends at a bar, and there was Jessica with her usual crew. She was clearly watching me, waiting for me to notice her. When our eyes met, she gave me this sad little wave. I just nodded and continued talking to my friends. Later, she accidentally bumped into me at the bar. Tried to start a conversation. "You look good. I miss talking to you." I gave minimal responses and excused myself to go back to my friends. She looked frustrated. I don't think she was prepared for me not to play along with her reconciliation fantasy. The next day, I found out, through mutual friends, that Jessica was telling people she thought we were working things out and taking things slow. Completely delusional. I had to send her a direct message. "We are not getting back together. Ever. Please stop telling people that." Her response was to show up at my work with lunch, like we were still dating. My coworkers were totally confused. I walked her back to her car and told her, point blank, that if she didn't stop, I'd renew the restraining order and press charges for harassment. That, finally, seemed to get through to her. She started crying again, asking why I couldn't forgive her if she was trying so hard. I just replied, "Because I don't want to. I've moved on. You should too." The most pathetic part came a few weeks later. Tiffany, her friend, the one who helped trash my car, contacted me to tell me Jessica had started drinking heavily, hooking up with random guys, and basically spiraling out of control. Apparently, this was supposed to make me feel responsible for her or something. I just replied, "That's a shame, but it's not my problem anymore. I hope she gets the help she needs." And well, it's been 3 months since all of this happened. Life is back to normal, maybe even better than before. I got the apartment lease switched solely to my name. Sold almost all the furniture we picked out together and bought new stuff. Basically eliminated all traces of Jessica from my daily life. The social media drama completely died down eventually. Most people heard both sides and understood what really happened. The friends who believed her garbage and cut me off without even asking for my side, I haven't heard from again, and I don't want to. The ones who stuck by me, or, at least, gave me a chance to explain before judging, are the only ones that matter. Jessica still tries to contact me every now and then, almost always when she's been drinking, judging by the typos and the time she sends the messages. I don't respond. The restraining order expired, but I didn't renew it because she's mostly kept her distance. Last month, I ran into Derek at a gas station. He practically tripped over himself to avoid me. Apparently, Jessica made his life miserable too after I dumped her. Can't say I feel sorry for him. As for me, I'm good. I've been on a few dates lately, nothing serious, just getting back out there. Work is good. Next month, I'm taking a trip with some friends, using the money I'd saved for the honeymoon. Biggest lesson from all of this, trust your gut. Deep down, I always knew something wasn't right with Jessica and her friends. I ignored it because I wanted to believe she was the person she pretended to be. I won't make that mistake again. I also learned that if someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. Don't think you can change them. Jessica showed me her true colors that night at the club, not just by cheating, but by how quickly she dismissed my feelings and played the victim instead of taking responsibility. Anyway, life goes on. If you're going through something similar, I just want you to know it gets better. The drama fades, the hurt fades, and one day, you realize you're so much better off without someone who is capable of disrespecting you like that. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.